Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Nerd Nation Trek Talk, which is something I just made up on the fly because why not? We're doing it all on the fly today. So I am joined here by my co-host, Chief Engineer Zami O'Brien. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah. It was just something I got on the fly.
So what we're going to be talking about is this is something that I wanted to talk about, and it just kept getting pushed back a little bit just because we had a lot of stuff we were trying to talk about it on the docket. We didn't have a lot of time. So this is just a short video about just what, two Trekkies talking about what we want from. We can talk more about what current Trek, but I most importantly want to talk about the new Captain Pike series. So Zam, what do you have to say to the people?
Well, first of all, hello everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I'm actually when I first heard about this, I thought, yeah, I do like the actor who's playing Pike, and he is an integral part, as minimal as he has been in the Star Trek universe. He's a cog in the wheel for sure, and to see his career as a Starfleet captain, it will be very interesting. I'm looking forward to that. I don't want him to be too similar to Kirk, for sure. I mean, I don't want him to be like a proper ladies' man, fucking everything on two legs and stuff like that. But I do want to see something that makes him what he is. I find a lot of the Star Trek captains, apart from maybe Cisco, to be very similar in ethics and ideas and stuff like that. And I want to see some differences. I want him to stand out from the crowd and not follow a similar routine, which is one of the reasons why I like Lurker so much from season 1 of Discovery. But anyway, I'm just yabbering on. I am looking forward to this show. I love Star Trek. I'm a big Star Trek fan, and more Star Trek is good for me.
So when they made the announcement of the show Strange New Worlds, which would be centered around Captain Pike, number 1, and Lieutenant Spock, I think it's just Lieutenant Spock. It's not Lieutenant Commander. It's not even Commander. It's Lieutenant Commander because this takes place about 9 years prior to Kirk, maybe even 8 years, because it's after season 2 of Discovery, which was the thing that made Discovery season 2 is good. Any good. I don't want to say any good, but good was Captain Christopher Pike. I have liked all incarnations of Pike so far. I liked the original series one, although he was really he had one or two episodes in there that he had. He was the original captain of the Starship Enterprise before Kirk. And then Bruce Greenwood as Captain Pike in
The Kelvin.
Yeah, he was Captain Pike in the Kelvin timeline, which honestly was one of the best things I took out of those movies, truth be told. I mean, Bruce Greenwood is a great actor, and he just brought that what you're talking about, that kind of different type of character to life for me as Pike. And then this actor, and I lost his name here, Anson Mount. He did in season 2 of Discovery. He did a fantastic job as Pike. He I don't want to say he reinvented the character, but he did a good job at expanding on the character that we've only seen.
Yeah, we know very little about him.
No. So I mean, going into this series, and one of my main points I wanted before I bounce it over to you, Zan, one of my main points that I wanted to talk about is how this show is named not after a ship, because if you think about it, almost every Star Trek series since The Next Generation has been named after a ship. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, Discovery, all of and Picard. Okay, so Picard is the exception to the rule, but that's,
Well, it's named after him, but that's...
Yeah, it's named after him.
Yeah.
So...
What an awful show that is. We'll talk about that later, by the way. We have our different opinions in our...
Yes, we do. But really, I really like the idea that this is not called, Star Trek Christopher Pike or Star Trek Captain Pike. I like that it's called Strange New Worlds because it kind of opens it up to the fact that they're going to be a little bit more creative and outside the box, that they're actually going to do the world exploring and building. And it'll be really fun to I know a lot of people are not fans of Discovery, but although I
like Discovery.
You do?
I do. I mean, I don't think it's found its place, but I do like Discovery. It was trying to be different. I gave it a shot, but the best things in Discovery were when the episodes became a little bit more episodic than just the series. Like when you brought in Harry Mudd and stuff like that, they were really good episodes. You know, with the time loops and stuff. Those were great episodes, and it made me really appreciate what Star Trek was. It reminded me of what Star Trek is, and I really want this with the Pike series. As much as we know the long game will be him ending up in that fucking chair, nevertheless, yeah, we need to have a lot of episodic episodes. You know, just for what it is. It doesn't have to fulfill a long story arc. I mean, there can be tidbits of it in episodes, but overall, I want more episodic stuff. You know, because it is Strange New Worlds. I want this show to be more like what Star Trek is. You know, what Voyager was, what Next Generation was, what the original series was. It needs to be more like that, and that's what I want from this series.
Well, and one of my things is that I kind of how I want this to run is kind of like the Flash season 1, because although because the Flash season 1 was very episodic, but still they had that overarching, you know, Reverse Flash arc. That's kind of how I want this. I mean, I don't mind having an overarching theme, but yeah, I want it to be pretty episodic. I want them to look into more of the Star Trek lore. I want them to kind of go into, you know, stuff that happened before Kirk. Everyone says, "Oh God, it's a prequel. Oh God, it's another prequel." I liked Enterprise. I didn't mind Discovery. I'd get into some of that, but that's a video for a different day. Definitely season 2 was better. But like, I don't mind the prequels as long as they honor the source material that came before it. And for the most part, Discovery and Enterprise really did. And so if you're going to go back and you're going to totally just retcon things, that's when they did with the Kelvin timeline. And I mean, I'm not totally on board with that, but I mean, they're not horrible movies in my opinion. But
the second one is shit.
I don't like the second one. I didn't like the first one as much. I like the second and the third one. I didn't like the first one as much.
Well, you know, my problem with Discovery is that it should have been the whole look of it. It should have been in a part of the Kelvin timeline. I mean, when they went on to the Enterprise in season 2, I thought to myself, this ain't the fucking Enterprise I recognize. It should be way more retro looking than this. You know, like,
well, but you also have to suspend your imagination for a little bit, because we know that a starship of that era is not going to look like it did on the 60s.
No, I'm not so sure, mate, because you've had episodes of Deep Space Nine, you know, the Trials and Tribulations episode, which is one of my favorite episodes of all time. I mean, when I saw that episode of DS9, was it the Trials and Tribulation or Troubles with Tribble? I keep forgetting.
It was the Trouble with Tribbles was the name of the episode in the original series.
Yeah,
I think Trials and Tribulations was the name of the DS9 episode.
Yeah, that was
I believe so.
That was a fantastic episode. I mean, that, you know, at that time, I don't think anybody's seen anything like that. It was such a unique thing, yeah. And it showed, you know, and it correlated. It brought everything together. It made that timeline. There was that episode of Enterprise where they go into the future and they go into the future Enterprise. You know, you know, the evil version of Captain Archer. He takes control and stuff like that. Yeah,
that wasn't the future. That was the alternate timeline.
Yeah, that was the alternate timeline. But they end up
mirror universe.
Yeah, but they end up mirror universe. But they end up getting a future Enterprise, which is the one Kirk would be using. You know, and you know, so they have shown the 60s Enterprise in modern day. They've had actors from those series like DeForest Kelley, who played Bones. He was in an episode of Next Generation. James Doohan was also in an episode of Next Generation. And I'm not sure if any of the other guys. Walter Keong. Sorry, not Walter Keong. George Takei, who played Sulu. No. So not Walter Keong. George Takei, who played Sulu. He was in an episode of Voyager. So, you know, these guys from that era are in these episodes. We've seen that era in modern episodes. So it feels a bit weird seeing a futuristic looking Enterprise, which is more futuristic than its future version, which is the past of, if you know what I'm saying. I'm finding it very hard to accept all of that, because one thing Star Trek tries to do is correlate things, make things all part together. and this doesn't feel like that, and it's bugging me. It bugs me a lot, but I'm trying to accept it. I'm trying to look at things differently, but it's pretty hard.
I eventually had to suspend my. I mean, they definitely made an effort to make it seem like it was relative to the original series Enterprise. I know that it doesn't look the same, but I feel like you kind of have to suspend that belief, in my opinion.
But why do that in the first place? Why not just make it Kelvin and then everything's hunky dory?
You know what? I agree with you on that. Why not make all of Discovery Kelvin timeline? I don't disagree with that whatsoever. You know, the problem is that the creators, who usually don't know as much as the fans do, more times than not, they basically said, "Oh, this is the prime timeline," and so that's where all of this comes from. I honestly, and this is a whole nother video for a different day, but I believe in the 3 timeline scenario. So there's 3 timelines, and I'm not going to get into the details, but there's the prime timeline, there's the Kelvin timeline, and then there's the first contact timeline. And I could get into how that. And actually, I believe that Discovery is a part of the first contact timeline from the movie First Contact.
No, I know. I always thought that was some sort of time loop. Personally, I always thought that Zefram Cochrane could never have got to what he did if it wasn't for the people he helped inspire in the future to come back into past for him to complete his mission. I always thought that. You know, sometimes.
I mean, and it could be a time loop. I feel like when the Borg went back in time, and you know, they destroyed that, because remember, there was an episode of Enterprise where they found the Borg, and I feel like there is where right there is
I
where
hated that episode.
I didn't.
I hated that because that episode ruined everything regarding
it ruined everything. It ruined everything for
TNG.
being the prime timeline.
No, but the TNG, then all of a sudden, like when Q said to Picard, "No one's ever seen these guys before." Well, I'm sorry, they have. You know, 150 years earlier, they saw it. You know, and so stuff like that. And for me, that's bad writing. The fact that you've got to put the Borg in there shows you they had no fucking ideas with Enterprise, which is why it only lasted 4 seasons. And I hate to say it, that was one show I started to weigh my appeal for Star Trek on, because it wasn't going anywhere. You know, just a lack of ideas. It's the past with no progression. And then, obviously, I want to quickly bring this up, as I mentioned earlier. Picard, not a fan of that. Not the Star Trek I want. You know, I gave up after 2 episodes. The first time ever have I not completed a Star Trek show, ever. And I don't want that to happen with the Pike series, Strange New Worlds. And I don't want this to be like Star Wars, where everyone's very judgmental, because usually prior to Enterprise, in my opinion, I think people loved all Star Trek. Enterprise wasn't that great, only lasted 4 seasons, unheard of. Picard's obviously hit and miss. Discovery's not everyone's cup of tea. So they really need to hit out the park with the Strange New World show. Really do.
Yeah. I mean, and as I said, I mean, with Strange New World, or not Strange New World, with Picard, just in regards to that, if I would give Picard a middle of the road review. Like, I like the overarching story. I like how they progressed a lot of the characters, like 7 of 9, and like returning characters. It was nice to see Hugh again. They actually progressed the Borg, I feel, as a character in the show.
Hugh, the Borg from the future, was he back?
No, he wasn't from the future. Wasn't he severed from the collective?
No,
he was the first Borg severed from the collective in the Next Generation.
No, but he
was. And the actor who originally played Hugh was playing Hugh, so he was much older. He looked like he would have aged normally.
Yeah,
like, you know. They brought Maddox back, which was okay. I mean, I don't remember much about Maddox, but but then there were definitely some misses. You know, in my opinion, like Starfleet having this fleet of 1 ships. The one thing that Starfleet has never struck me as is having a fleet of just one type of ship, because at the end, like a bunch of, I don't want to ruin it for you, but there's a sequence with a bunch of ships, but it's one type. And it's like, that's really lazy, like, design. You know, like a lot of Star Trek battles always have like the galaxy, and you don't need to have these types of classes. but I'm saying like in the past, they've had different types of classes: Galaxy class, Miranda class, Excelsior class, Akaran class. You've had Steamrunner class. You've had Sovereign class. You've had all these classes that are like a part of this fleet, and they all have a specific function. But in the sequence that they had, it was just one type of ship. They're like, oh, we have this fleet of this ship that's the best in Starfleet, and I'm like, well, that's boring. You know what I mean? Like it was just that. I mean, that was one of the parts that got me. There was one of the points towards the end that got me about the androids that was kind of just like meh. I'm like, all right, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it too much for you since you haven't seen the whole thing. But
it just wasn't engaging me. Like, not even like throwing Patrick Stewart. Sorry, let me get closer to my mic. Not even throwing Patrick Stewart in the mix, and then bringing back characters from other shows like Seven of Nine. You could window dress it as much as you want. If you haven't got a good story, as far as I was concerned, or a story worth following, as far as I was concerned, then I can't be asked. I mean, you can call yourself Star Trek, but I'm not going to let my love of Star Trek blind me for watching a show which I assume I felt was really shit. And like I said, I want them to do better with this Strange New Worlds. Do you know when it's coming out, by the way?
No, they've just announced it. If you want to give me a second, if you want to keep talking, I might be able to find out.
Well, my concern is that with the coronavirus happening and they haven't filmed a single episode, then God knows when this show will be aired. And
it says that they started production in January of 2020. So, I mean, we could be looking at it probably. I mean, what would you say about next winter, next fall, this upcoming fall?
Well, maybe? Whenever they start filming, really.
Look, and that also is a big thing. I want to go. They're allowed to start.
I'll give Picard one thing. One of the reasons why I really wanted to watch Picard, it was the most up to date regarding timeline of all the Star Trek shows. Everything in recent years has been about the past, and I'm fed up with that. Yeah, it's just a lack of ideas. They can't progress.
And I agree with you. I like the idea of the Captain Pike series only because of the actors. I really enjoyed the actors who played Spock number one, and really number one was only there for a little bit, and but mostly Captain Pike. That's really the only reason why I'm excited for this series is because I want to see more of this Captain Pike. Because he was in Discovery season 2, he was very engaging, and I liked his character. He did a great job with it.
What do you think of Spock?
He was good. He was almost relegated to a background role, only not background role, but like a distant role because they were kind of chasing him and trying to find him. At this point. And he was around, but he was a little weird because of the whole story arc going on. He wasn't he wasn't completely back to himself until towards the end of the series. He was a little cattywampus and they did a good job explaining that.
Do you like him being Michael's brother?
I don't care because I don't care that much about Michael. Michael is one of the most least interesting characters to me in that show. Like, I don't care about Michael Burnham at all. I really don't. I mean, I was more interested in almost all the other characters on that show. Tilly, I can't remember the rest of their names. I'm sorry.
Oh, I forgot the name of the tall alien.
Yeah,
brilliant.
The
one who's yeah, like he's got his little tentacles that I'm glad they came off, by the way, because it kind of showed that he evolved from the fear and stuff. And the fact that aliens ate him and stuff like that. What the fuck?
Yeah. But I mean, I enjoyed a lot of the characters around Michael more than I enjoyed Michael Burnham herself. I really enjoy. Okay, so if we're talking about Discovery a little bit, I know we're. Hi AJ, how you doing there, bud?
Hello AJ.
At least somebody wants to come and talk Star Trek with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, I remember when I was born and Star Trek Voyager was on. Or when I was born, Star Trek Enterprise was on the air. Anyway, so what was I saying? But I mean,
Michael Burnham, you mentioned the supporting characters.
Oh, like she's just a disappoint. Oh, but I was more enticed with the mirror universe stuff too. Lorca, like that whole twist with Lorca, I for some reason, I mean, I normally am very cynical when I see these twists coming. I didn't see it coming. Literally didn't see him being a mirror universe person until
a lot of people speculated it in reviews. When I saw a review. I would watch a review of the show after I watched the show, and a lot of people were speculating that, and then it happened, and I couldn't believe it, and I was so upset by it because I wanted Lurker to be a mainstay because he was so different to every captain we've had in the past. You know, he was an asshole captain, and that made it very, very interesting.
And you know what? And I agree with you. Like he was definitely a different captain, and I don't disagree with you on that. I think that's a great thing. But I feel like the payoff twist was like the exact opposite of the Iron Man 3 twist.
I guess, but then it also made me realize that we're going to lose this guy, because for me, the way Lurker was as a captain with the war against the Klingons, he seemed like the ideal. I mean, don't get me wrong, not ideal, but he seemed like the sort of captain you would some militaries would employ to get a job done, because he was a military type captain. You know, he was very much a shoot first, ask questions later type captain, and that was so refreshing. And then
I agree.
And it's gone, and he'll never come back. I mean, I don't want an Earth One version of him who's just like, that's just a cop out. That Lurker is the one I wanted, and that Lurker's not coming back, and I'm gutted.
Well, and I think that's why they brought the Empress back with them, was because they wanted her to kind of be that.
Oh, Michelle Yeoh's character.
Yeah,
but we already knew that she was from a different universe. She was a different sort of person. We already saw her, the good version of her, which died in early on in the season premiere, I believe. So it just, we only had one version of Lurker, and that was the one I wanted. And it was really, like I said, before we found out, before they even went there with the mirror universe and stuff, those episodes he was involved in, the more episodic episodes, they were great. They were fucking great, man. Oh god. And I don't want to see the Klingons being these idiots anymore. And also they need to, this is the thing as well, Roberto. When they did Enterprise, they explained why the Klingons didn't have any ridges, and now the Klingons look like fucking freaks of nature in Discovery. So how are we gonna get rid of the ridges again? You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. Because if you're gonna do this, I think Roberto is gone. My dad. So if any of you guys know about Star Trek, in the Enterprise show, they explained why the Klingons had no ridges on their heads. And then when you watch the original Star Trek series, you can see the Klingons have no ridges on their heads, but then later on you see ridges on their heads. So that needs to be explained. And they did that. They actually fucking did that. The Trials Tribulation episode, they did that. And they did that in the episode of Enterprise. And now Klingons have got ridges on their heads again in Discovery, which is set a few years before the Star Trek original series. So what the fuck's going on? I'm confused. Like, we're not getting, consistent, foundations built in to make a credible universe where everything is connected, because this doesn't feel fucking connected. Yet it's supposed to be. It's not Kelvin. This is the original timeline. This shit doesn't feel fucking connected, and it really pisses me off. If I wasn't such a sucker for Star Trek, I probably would give the Pike series a pass, because I've been so disappointed with recent Star Trek. Even Discovery, as much as I didn't mind watching it, it's not the best. I mean, I did soldier on with the show, and it was good enough for me to complete it. But the other Star Trek shows have been far more superior. I don't know what we're going to get out of Pike. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what direction they're going to go. I really hope they keep it episodic. Because if they don't, I think it's going to be a bore like Picard. Not everything needs to be stretched for, not one particular storyline needs to be stretched over 7 or 8 or 12 episodes, or how many episodes they're going to be doing, with little bits and bobs and side plots and subplots thrown in just to fill in all the time. They don't need to do that. You know, what is the Pike series? Well, if you ever watched the very, very first episode of Star Trek, the pilot episode from the 60s, there was no Captain Kirk. There was Captain Pike. And him and Spock smiled and laughed in that first episode, but there's an explanation for that. Captain Pike was the captain of the first Star Trek episode, and then I think they got rid of him for James D. Kirk, but they did bring the actor back, and he's all like crippled and shit, and he's in a chair and he can't talk, and he's got scars and blotches all over his face, Captain Pike, you know, because something's happened to him, and he's all fucked up, and the only way you can communicate is with yes and no, and he's got these two little lights on his wheelchair, and one beeps for yes and the other one beeps for fucking no. That's Captain Pike. He's basically a glorified vegetable.
That is accurate. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What happened to you?
Dude, my whole computer just shut down. Like, I had it plugged in and everything. I don't know. Maybe I got a bad battery and it just can't. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Luckily, Chief Engineer Zammy O'Brien's here to the rescue.
That's right.
I'll have a little tinker with my little tools. Like, I've got this tool here, and I've got this, you know, and I've got some tobacco, and I'm sure I'll figure something out. It is quite boring to me. I really don't care for the genre. Oh, man. I mean, before Star Wars, AJ, there was Star Trek. And Star Trek, in my opinion, was one of the few things, not just Star Trek, as well as obviously those samurai movies, as well as 2001: A Space Odyssey. But all these things, in my opinion, helped influence Star Wars. So Star Trek has a big space in my heart because it's just so different as well. It's basically space governments, you know what I mean, with representatives and stuff like that, and not trying to cause shit and stuff. And what I actually liked about Star Trek generally is that the cast consists of human beings from all over the planet Earth, as well as sometimes some aliens thrown in for good measure. So it's diversity, which is one of the things that makes Star Trek so popular. It represents everybody, and not just everybody from one country, but everybody from one world. And if you're going to be representing Earth in a show, then you want everybody from all over the world, not just from America. Da, 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 da. You don't want everyone just from there. You know, you want it to keep it a mixed bag.
Nuclear vessels. Check out best.
Yeah,
well, yeah. And since you're talking about that, I mean, here's one of the other things about but here's one of the other things about Star Trek is that it originated in a time where television was more supposed to be fascinating rather than entertaining. And I mean, the original series of Star Trek was something that was the grand experiment. I mean, the first interracial kiss on TV. Mm-hmm. They're the first ones to, you know, just pioneer a lot of the technologies we have today. Those grocery store automatic opening doors. They got the idea from Star Trek. Like they got that idea. I mean, there's a ton of
mobile phones.
Yeah, absolutely. Tablet, mobile phones. You know, I mean, any you name it. You know, a lot of this stuff originated in some shape or form on Trek.
You know, Star Trek, when they were making it, they had a real issue with how to get people from the spaceship down to the ground. So that's when they came up with the beaming idea, because it saved them having to film that, so to speak.
Yeah,
which is quite genius.
And I mean, you know, yeah, I'm still waiting on my transporter and my replicator. That's what I'm waiting on, so I can eat my Taco Bell every day.
Yeah, my Taco Bell's become a little bit shit, or maybe I've had a bit too much of it. Ric Flair giving 2001 credit for that theme. Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you, when I watched 2001 and I hear that theme, I don't think of Ric Flair, but at the same time, when I watch Ric Flair and I hear that theme, I don't think of 2001.
Same here.
2001 is a great film, by the way. It's one of the greatest science fiction movies ever made. I think it was way ahead of its time, bit artsy, a very very artsy science fiction film. But nevertheless, I mean, at the time when people saw that, it would have probably been as blown away as they were when they watched Star Wars. But we're talking Star Trek here, so I'll try not to go too much on a tangent. Do you know? I was wondering, do you think we'll see other Star Trek cast members? Like, will we see Sulu? Will we see Kirk?
Are you talking about like younger versions?
Yeah, I don't expect to see Chekhov because he came in season 2 of Star Trek. But I do expect to possibly see Uhura, Scotty.
It depends on how long. Does it ever mention in the original series how long they had been on the ship? Like, had Scotty ever said, "I've been on this ship for 7 years," and yada yada? You know, I don't know if there's ever been a mention on how long they had been on the ship.
I'm not sure, but you know, I'm not 100% sure, but I do remember that episode of Star Trek Next Generation where Scotty was on it, and he goes on the holodeck and he asks if he wants to go on the Enterprise, and then the holodeck asks him the computer asks him which one. He goes, the first one. Well, if he went on the first one, he would be on fucking Jonathan Archer's Enterprise, and he didn't. He went on his one. So stuff like that really bugs me. Like, I'll tell you another thing which bugs me as well, dude. The very last episode of Star Trek Next Generation, the future Enterprise, which is now being captained by Riker, he takes the Enterprise to Warp 13. In Voyager, breaking the Warp 10 barrier was a big fucking deal. Do you remember?
Well, they went transwarp. That's what they were doing.
Yeah, but they had to get to Warp 10 to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that don't mean shit when future fucking Riker has already gone to Warp 13. Yeah, that really pisses me off. I swear to God, it really does.
And the sad part is that that happened within a year or two of one another. Because remember, the end of the Next Generation, then the next season was the first season of Voyager. So not only did you have the last episode of Next Gen that happened in 1991, and you had that episode where Riker went Warp 13, but then you have Voyager, and I believe it was the first season where they broke, or it was either the first or the second, where they broke that transwarp barrier. So that retcon happened like within a span of 2 years.
That's ridiculous. Let me see what AJ's saying. What is it with you guys? Attack Bell? Trust me, I'm not Attack Bell. It's really 2019 for me. You know, with the lockdown and stuff, I'm not going as hardcore as I used to be. Are you calling William Shatner old? Yeah, he is old.
Nah, he's butt old.
Oh, look, I mean, all of these guys must be in their 80s now. I mean, I do follow George Takei on Facebook, and it's a real shame. William Shatner was such an arsehole to the rest of his cast members, because they all deserve to have as far as I'm concerned, a lot of those guys, they really got their spotlight more in the movies than they did in the series. You know,
I think after Star Trek 6, I think they should have gone with the original intent and done a Star Trek Excelsior movie, because they were going to do a Star Trek Excelsior movie with Sulu and his crew. Like, that was like almost Star Trek 6 was almost the pilot for that movie.
I would have loved to have seen that. I still love that part. I mean, by the way, Star Trek 6, I don't think it gets enough credit. It's one of the, in my opinion,
that's my second favorite Star Trek movie.
Star Trek 6, in my opinion, is, I mean, the shittest ones are motion pictures. Star Trek 5, they are very shit. Star Trek 4 is a very family-orientated film because they needed to be, after all the doom and gloom of 2 and 3. I mean, 3 was a really sad episode. I mean, actually, I think Star Trek 3 doesn't get enough credit because it's very similar to 2. It's the polar opposite to 2, but it's similar. You know,
it's the Empire Strikes Back of that Star Trek trilogy of 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I mean, like 2, 3, and 4 is a trilogy. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, Star Trek 3 is a really sad. I mean, for a start, Christopher Lloyd, fantastic as a Klingon. As far as I was concerned,
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd set the bar of what Klingons were supposed to be in that movie. Because if it wasn't for him, in my opinion, there was still kind of a mystery, Klingons to a degree. But he really made you look at what Klingons are. I'm going to die on this planet fighting you. And that's really the mold of Klingons after that.
Because after that, right around the time Star Trek 4 came out, that's when Next Gen came out. And that's when the new breed of Klingon started coming out. So you're right. Christopher Lloyd's Klingon really set the bar for... Because, I mean, there were no real Klingons that I remember in Star Trek 2. And there were none. There were a
tiny bit in motion picture. They get killed off immediately. And they look really bad as well, those Klingons. But they had that Klingon music, by the way, which was pretty cool. I love that music.
Yeah.
But, nevertheless, going back to Star Trek 6, there were some really, really great moments. I love, like, for instance, the part where Spock catches Kim Cattrall's character sabotaging. She basically finds the evidence which sabotaged McCoy and Kirk. And you just see him just slap that fucking shit out of her hands, and he's so pissed off, but he's trying to hold it in because he's a Vulcan, but he's vexed. He's so vexed. I love that bit. I love that part where they're trying to create that bomb, and Kirk goes, fire, like that. Some great fucking moments, man. Star Trek 6 is really good. And also Sulu's character, when they're trying to catch up with the Enterprise so they can save it. And then And he goes, fly her apart then. I love that. Like, fuck you guys. I'm going to save my mate.
Yeah, no, I mean, Star Trek 6 is my second favorite Star Trek movie.
It's great. It's a really good. And obviously, Christopher Plummer is one of the best Klingons in the Star Trek universe. I mean, he's just fantastic. A fucking Shakespearean loving Klingon. I mean, who would have thought?
But, guess who? But then you have Jadzia Dax on DS9, who had like a ton of Klingon experience with one of her former hosts. So it's like you can do it both ways. It's okay for a Klingon to love human literature, and it's okay for a Trill to love Klingon culture. Like it. That's the great thing about Star Trek, is that you got cross-culturing in there. And
Jesus Christ, man. Was it
that's
wrong?
What I want to see in this Pike series, bringing things around.
I mean, because like Bajoran women are bloody hot, yeah. And then you got Rom, that guy with the fucked up teeth and the bulgy head, Quark's brother. And that Rom.
You're right. That's Rom. Yeah.
Yeah, and mate, I don't know. I forgot the name of that girl he ends up marrying, but Jesus Christ,
Lita?
My God, you know what I mean? Ron married that. Like, come on.
Dude, one of my favorite, probably my favorite character in DS9 is Nog, where he goes from this young punk that's like a bad influence on Cisco's son to being like one of the most stellar Starfleet officers, and like that scene with Nog in the office with Cisco, and Cisco's like, why should I recommend you to Starfleet Academy? Why should I put my trust in you? And he's just so convicted. And I mean, I know the actor was so good, but it's just like that whole thing was written so well. Nog is definitely one of my favorite characters of any Star Trek series, hands down.
Not only is that kid really good, like he had to still try to act like an emotional Ferengi when explaining himself. I mean, he still had to be a Ferengi. My only issue with Star Trek, a lot of Star Trek, and sci-fi in general, is that too many aliens have American accents, and it really bugs the shit out of me. It's like, come on, man. You're telling me you can't diverse or you can't come up with new sounds. I'll give Star Wars a lot of credit on that. They really do try to figure out ways of making everyone sound different.
Except for the Jedi, they all sound British.
Well, if you're human, you sound American or British. I mean, I don't think there's many other accents other than that. I mean, I'm sure Donnie Yen had a different accent, but everyone pretty much sounded American or British on Star Wars who was human, which is kind of sad, really. But anyway, that's going on the tangent. I mean, we kind of really strayed away from Pike here. Is there anything more you want to say about Pike?
No, I hope it is what the title says it is, Strange New Worlds. I hope we see just a diversity of, like you said, episodic episodes where they do some adventure in. You know, we'll get to learn some lore from, like, I would love for them sometime to dig into like Andorian lore, because we know a ton about the Vulcans, we know a ton about the Klingons, the Romulans.
Mhm.
Like, one of the main cornerstones of the Federation was the Tellarites and the Andorians.
Yeah,
And I know we learned a little bit about the Andorians in
in
Enterprise.
Enterprise. Yeah.
I still kind of wish we would at least get more into the Andorians, because they seem like such a fascinating, like, a fascinating race. And I don't know. They come from an ice planet, you know, like it. That's really all you know about them, though. You know, they do have warriors. You know, I just really wish that we had. I just really wish that they would dig a little bit more into the lore of the Andorians.
I wonder if one of the things with the original episode, a series of Star Trek, was a lot of the aliens they came across were like gods. You know, especially in the first season. I mean, and I wonder if they're gonna try and pay homage to that. I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but originality has also got to be familiarity as well as originality. It's a really hard balance to get. It really is, and I hope they can pull it off. And I want them to pull it off because I love this material. I've loved it my entire life, and I really hope one day we as a species, human beings, and this planet unites, and we could be venturing into the stars. Probably not in our lifetimes.
Probably not, knowing how we're doing. But hey, SpaceX had that launch, and space America's finally back in space. I think.
I'm so happy about that. It's about bloody time you
Well,
guys
and
go back into space.
I think finding a way to privatize space travel is really going to be the only way to progress it at this point, because yeah, the government may have all the money, but
They're not interested at the moment because
yeah,
initially you guys were only interested because you wanted to beat the Russians.
exactly. We only wanted to beat the Russians, and now
And after the Challenger disaster, you never really went back. Well,
well,
you did, but you
and
didn't.
the NASA only makes like 0.3% of what it used to. Or maybe it's no, I'm sorry. It's 0.3% of the national budget. 0.3%. Like,
Yeah.
that's not even
Well,
0.10%.
so
Like,
this SpaceX is privatized, yeah.
yeah.
And you said it was space travel, because as far as I'm concerned, space travel doesn't feel like we're venturing forward in exploration and understanding and discovery. And that's really what I want from space travel. I don't want to just fly into space and then just fly back down to Earth again. What's the point in that?
Well,
You
no,
need to expand on this.
and they are. They're working to try. I think 2025 or 2026 is when they're gonna start building the moon base or whatever. So,
Well, you know what? When I'll see it and I'll believe it. Because
I agree. I mean, we'll see if it happens, but I'm hopeful. And then after
governments change, things change.
yeah, and then after the moon, then apparently they're sending people out to Mars, which will be by 2030, is what they say. We'll see. I don't know, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
All right, Zam, let's wrap it up. If you want to do more of these Star Trek talks, I'm game. We can do them whenever. I would love to dig into you a little bit more about the movies, the specific shows. I was kind of hoping this would be like a 20-minute, 25-minute video about Pike, and then we just kind of like rabbit trailed. So, but
Inevitable.
yeah, I know we never stay on topic. But anyway, I mean, throw me some ideas. We can do some more of these Trek talks. I love talking Trek. I can talk Trek all day, especially with somebody who knows it. I don't have a lot of friends who love Trek like I do, so it's good to have someone to bounce.
All I want to do is do Ponfar with Jolene Ballock. That would be great.
Who?
The Vulcan from Enterprise.
Oh, T'Pol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serious Ponfar with her, mate. I've always wanted to do some Ponfar, whatever that shit is. You know what I mean? That was great. I remember, like, in Voyager, like that Vulcan, he was like getting all horny and shit, and he used to do Ponfar, and he ends up wanting to bang Torres, and in order for him to get it out of his system, they end up having a fight. I know they were recalling back to the time when that happened to Spock and stuff like that. I love it when Vulcans get emotional. It's really good. I love it because people make the mistake of them not having emotions. They suppress it.
Oh no, I was gonna say they have them. They're there. They just suppress them. So, I mean, they're always like, "Oh, Vulcans shouldn't get emotional." No, they do. I mean, even we saw with Sarek at the end of his life, like with Sarek. I mean, Spock's dad. He succumbed to a disease that let his emotions boil to the surface, and he dealt with that with Picard, I believe. If I think that's the episodes that it was.
Do you Oh, sorry. Sarek was quite a prominent character in Discovery, by the way.
Yeah, he was.
And we've had like a couple of different actors play him. I kind of lost what I was going to say. I'll try to remember if I can. You wanted to say something?
I was actually just going to wrap it up. I mean, no.
It's not coming into my head, so let's just wrap it up.
Well, thank you, Zamario, for joining me. I'm sorry, Chief Engineer Zammy O'Brien.
Wonderful.
Zammy O'Brien.
Yeah. Oh man, I loved O'Brien. I'm so glad.
Oh yeah, I loved O'Brien too.
Glad that he got a good spot on DS9 after Voyager, and he met so many of his mates. Like when he must have. I bet fucking Michael Dorn, who played Worf, must have been so happy to have him there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but in the show they made it like he was kind of annoyed. I always love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so we're wrapping it up. Zam, yeah, let's do this again because as I said, I love talking Trek with people, and especially someone who likes it as much as I do. So
love it. I love it to bits. I just wish Picard was better. Other than that, I've seen everything.
Yeah. All right. So, and if anyone wants to leave if you guys want to give us a topic to talk about in the comments section, that's fine. Go ahead and give us a like, or as I say, destroy that like button. Destroy it.
Smash it, share it, give it out, whore it out, give it to everyone, and I'll give you $1 billion in Zimbabwean money.
Checks in the mail. And just subscribe if you like the content. I mean, we do wrestling podcasts, we do anything nerd related or what's considered to be nerdy. Marvel, we talk Star Wars, we talk anything.
Video games,
very much so. Video games,
even other stuff which is nerdy related, which might not necessarily be a franchise, but tickles our fancy.
That's
we are all on it.
Is just whatever we want to talk about, and we're open to like opening forums to other people. I mean, if you want to be on a show and you want to talk
wrestling,
about something,
we like talking about wrestling as well. Don't forget that.
So anyway, all right. So
all the sad shit. All the stuff you would associate with dickheads. That's what we like to talk about.
Yeah. Dickheads like Zam. All right.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up. Zam, thanks for joining me.
Peace.
All right, let's clock out.